If you've been following the series for as long as I have, you know that while Goku, Vegeta, and the Z fighters have been holding it down, there are a lot of characters who had huge potential, but were sadly underused or sidelined. Whether it's through missed story arcs or lack of development, some of the strongest characters in the entire Dragon Ball franchise never really reached their full potential. Before we dive further into the topic, welcome to the Dragon of Samsara, where we'll cover everything anime, from discussions to lore drops, Q&As, and what-ifs. You'll find all the latest anime and manga news here. We post a video once a week, so consider subscribing if you like the video so you don't miss the next one. So today, we're diving deep into the top 5 Dragon Ball characters with wasted potential. These are the fighters who could have been absolute game changers, but got the short end of the stick. Let's get into it. Number 5, present Goten and Trunks. The two youngest Z fighters who were supposed to carry the torch into the next generation, but never really did. Let's be real, Goten and Trunks had major potential. Goten especially became a Super Saiyan at 7 years old, before Goku, before Vegeta, and even before Gohan. And Trunks? This kid was born into battle, trained with his dad Vegeta, and even held his own against some of the toughest opponents. The duo came together for the fusion technique, becoming the incredibly powerful Gotenks, a warrior who could hold his own against Super Buu. In fact, Gotenks had some of the most creative and hilarious moves in all of Dragon Ball, like the Super Ghost Kamikaze Attack and Galactic Donut. But after the Buu saga, Goten and Trunks essentially fade into oblivion. They show up in Super and the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie, but by then, they've been relegated to comic relief. There's no serious character growth, no training arcs, no power-ups. They're mostly just background characters or filler content. Imagine what could have happened if they'd trained alongside Whis or Shin, or if Goten started to develop his own fighting style instead of just copying Goku. They could have had their own arcs that explored the bond of their friendship and rivalry, maybe even pushing their fusion abilities further. But instead, they were left on the sidelines while other characters dominated the stage. Such a waste for two kids who could have been legends. Number 4. Next up is Tien, one of the original Z fighters who, frankly, deserved a lot more attention than he got. Tien was one of the strongest humans in the entire series at his peak. He gave Goku and Piccolo a hard time during the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, and he even went toe-to-toe with Nappa during the Saiyan saga. With techniques like the Tri-Beam and his solar flare, Tien was no joke. He was, at one point, a legitimate power player in the Dragon Ball universe. But after the Saiyan saga, Tien started to fade into obscurity. Sure, he was there during the Cell and Buu sagas, but his contributions were minimal. Even during the Tournament of Power in Dragon Ball Super, he barely got a moment to shine. He fought against some powerful opponents, but was ultimately overshadowed by the likes of Goku, Vegeta, and even Frieza. Tien had the potential to be so much more than just the strong, silent guy. He was a martial artist, a disciplined fighter, who could have trained with the gods or even explored his connection to other martial arts legends. His power could have reached new heights if given the proper narrative development. Instead, he got left behind, and it's kinda obvious why. He and Piccolo are practically the same character. There was only a need for one of them, and Piccolo was chosen. If we're being real, they made the right decision. Number 3, Yamcha, the guy who always gets the short end of the stick. The punching bag of Dragon Ball fans everywhere, right? But let's not forget, Yamcha was once a serious threat. He was one of the first to show off the Kamehameha in the series, and back in Dragon Ball, he was a pretty skilled fighter. Even in the Saiyan saga, he showed grit and determination before events went sideways. But after that, Yamcha's entire character arc became about him being the underdog, the one who never really caught up to the rest. By the time we hit Dragon Ball Z and Super, Yamcha was mostly just a comic relief character, getting blown away in battle or getting knocked out early in major fights. Sure, we got a few moments of him being a cool guy. He helped out during the Android and Cell sagas, but ultimately, he became a running joke. It's not that Yamcha couldn't have been a solid fighter. He was there from the beginning, and the potential was there. But in the grand scheme of things, he just didn't develop. Imagine if Yamcha had trained with Whis. Okay, Maybe that's a bit much, but what if he trained with the Supreme Kai? Maybe. If he had his own special moments in major arcs, maybe even fighting side by side with the rest of the Z fighters in Super. Instead, he's mostly left in the background, a joke in the eyes of the audience. It's a tragedy for a character who once had so much promise. Number 2, Future Trunks. Now, let's talk about Future Trunks, but not the one from the Cell Saga. No, we're talking about the Future Trunks from Dragon Ball Super. This guy is a legend in his own right. When we first saw him in the Android Saga, Future Trunks was the definition of badass. He showed up out of nowhere, defeated Frieza, and became one of the most iconic characters in the series. But his return in Dragon Ball Super? A missed opportunity. In the Goku Black arc, Future Trunks comes back to warn the Z fighters about the threat of Zamasu and Goku Black. He's strong, but his power is inconsistent, especially when compared to the rest of the cast. His transformation, Super Saiyan Rage, feels like a forced power-up with little explanation. An ass pull, in other words. Instead of staying in the past after his timeline was destroyed by Zeno, he goes back to the future, where his arc fizzles out. This is a guy who fought in a destroyed future, took down androids, and nearly saved his world. But in Super, he didn't get the same kind of development or recognition as other characters. Instead, he became a side character with little, impact on the overall story. Number 1, Shin. And finally, the Supreme Kai, Shin. Introduced as one of the most powerful and mysterious characters in Dragon Ball Z, Shin was touted as a godlike figure, a protector of the universe. He was supposed to be a big deal, a character, with significant power, wisdom, and influence over the events of the entire series. But what happened to him? He spent the majority of Dragon Ball Z being a comedic and ineffectual figure. Despite being one of the highest-ranking beings in the universe, Shin's involvement in major battles was basically non-existent. He played a minor role in the fight against Majin Buu, and then just faded into the background. In Dragon Ball Super, things didn't improve much for him. He's still stuck as a bumbling, weak figure compared to the Saiyans and other gods. While characters like Beerus and Whis get tons of development, Shin barely gets any screen time at all. Imagine if he had a more meaningful arc, or he was made more competent and actually acted like a god. There was so much potential for him to explore his divine abilities and lead the Kais in a more impactful way. But instead, he's pretty much irrelevant. Shin had everything he needed to be a major figure in the universe, but the writers never followed through on his potential. It's a huge waste, especially for a character who was meant to be a universal protector. Before we wrap up, let's shout out a few honorable mentions. Raditz, Goku's brother who was barely even given a chance. Kaba, Caulifla, and Kale, Universe 6 Saiyans with so much potential, but didn't get enough screen time. Zarbon, a fan favorite from the Frieza saga who never got his moment to shine. And that's a wrap on our top 5 Dragon Ball characters with wasted potential. Do you agree with this list, or do you think someone else deserves a spot? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Dragon Ball content. Catch you next time.